most people do not like is you lost your privacy. And more so, a lot of time you lose your dignity. It's very bad. Sometimes you're wrongfully accused of things you didn't do. Sometimes they twisted you and then make you, in order to make you look bad. But for certain reasons, because for the community, because you cannot want to break up the community, that you have to swallow all of that. It's very, very hard. So for those sacrifices, and also something that I tell myself I cannot do. And this is what I admire a lot of candidates. Something that I do not have the talent, that I can really respond to different issues and be smart with it. I cannot have the talent of public speaking. I do not have the patience. I do not want to sacrifice this. This is somebody doing the sacrifice for you. So therefore, out of everything, I just consider no matter what contribution you have, whatever the check you wrote, compare to their dedication, to their willingness to sacrifice and willingness to stand up for the community, the check is really too small compared to their will and to their commitment. So this is always, for the last 15 years, I make the same talk. I do numerous times, every time. So this is something I said, for those who are already elected, like David, like Fiona, like Barry, I really salute you from my heart. For those who are planning to run for office, I said, I really salute you for your courage, for your determination, for your dedication. It takes great courage, great perseverance, and the willingness to sacrifice. And most of all, sometimes almost like you've been stripped naked and under microscope of everyone. This is something of great courage. So therefore, I think it's for those people who say, hey, I want to be a supporter. I think it's an honor to be a supporter, because you're supporting somebody that sometimes, even you want to run, you do not have the skill, you do not have the stamina. So therefore, it has to be a community. So this is why I said before the fundraising part, I will say everybody will consider to participate in the fundraising part. It's not you doing something good, it's a privilege to participate, because this is your community. And the community have to be strong, and you're just a part of it. So therefore, this is not being creative. So every time, I have almost no variation in this talk. So it's for lack of imagination.
Many of us could not have run without the generosity of you and other supporters in this room and supporters around the country. So let's give Sandy and all the supporters in this room a big hand. I'll take care of it in a second. It's probably mine, but it might not be. I just want to say that I've been honored enough to go around the country and have an opportunity to encourage young people to run for public office in sessions kind of like this, to talk in China about the importance of participating in government without necessarily mentioning the word democracy. It's really important. The process requires passionate, intelligent, well-motivated people, and we need to encourage young people to seek office. At the end of the day, there are people who do come to me and say, knowing what you know now, would you still run for office? And I say, in a heartbeat. It's important. the process needs good people, and I'd like to think that I did a half-decent job of it, but it is very difficult, and I really encourage everybody to do it. At the end of the day, it is a great job. It's a fantastic honor, but there is nothing better in the world than to wake up every morning and to ask yourself, how can I make the world a slightly better place today? And that's not half bad. Fiona?
So, I mean, fundraising, we talked about it. You have to be able to ask people for money, and it has to really be you. You should be able to raise money in your district because people are going to report on that and gauge your popularity in the district. For me, like, I just gave out all of my cards, and if we had a little more time, I would ask each one of you for your card. That's how you develop a base. And I input every single business card that I get into my database myself. I code them, and then that also triggers me to either respond or, you know, follow up with something that we talked about. But your database is the most important communication tool, I feel, in my 15 years doing this. My first campaign, I had my campaign consultants handle the database. They like downloaded, and I don't know, some people gave them names, and then after the campaign, they took it. So after I got elected, I had no one. And that was my lesson, that it is mine. I directly contract with my data people, and it is my database. And I sign contracts saying if we sever the relationship, the information is still mine. And I've got about 75,000 people on my database. So just make sure, you know, when you're starting to collect your database, your cards, something that's flexible for you, but that's going to be your main communication with your folks, because you're not going to be able to write letters and send out, you know, mail all the time, because that costs money. But being able to send out an email obviously is going to be least expensive. But then I also try not to send out emails that always ask for money all the time, because then how many of you get like an email saying, I hate to bother you, but, or the Republicans did this, but, or my deadline is coming up, but. What do? You delete it. I delete it too, because I'm like, you never tell me anything that's important, like when I'm going to see the candidate, or whether the candidate, you know, has something, you know, to offer us in terms of tips or free seminars to come to, you know, invitations to things. So you have to kind of vary your communication with folks. They don't, you know, unsubscribe to your emails.
Fundraising, very, very difficult. You have to get over the inhibitions, because I think every well-raised person is taught it's impolite to ask for money. You got to get over it. And there are ways of learning. Volunteer for organizations. I volunteer to raise money for Stanford in Oregon. They trained me. I volunteered to raise money for the Oregon Graduate Institute, a research institution, and a few other charities. And not only do they train you, but guess what? They give you a list to work from. I had the entire list of 3,000 Stanford graduates in the state of Oregon. And guess what? I kept it. Okay?
Yes.
Questions? This is a tough thing.
And I would also ask, not everyone has the means to give a lot of money. So you have to also be sensitive not to embarrass people if they can't donate as much as you think. Obviously, CC and Sandy and Shin Kong are you know, different and very generous. Thank you. But for most people, you know, if you start low, don't say like, can you donate $500 to me? $500 is a lot of money for most people. You know, start with 50. And then they get into the database, and then you ask them, you know, a little bit more. I mean, that's usually the presidential campaign model, right? They say, will you give $1? That's how they get you into their database, and then they try to keep building. But just be sensitive when you ask people for money, how much you're asking and when, because not everyone can afford to give.
That's also called bait and switch. Beware of Barry.
Michelle.
I have a question. Most of your funds are coming from the wealthy people like Cindy, CC, or from the ordinary people?
No. You have a lot of small donors. Federal campaigns have a lot of small donors. Now, you may raise the majority of your money from high donors, but you have a lot of small donors, and in fact, the high donors want to see that you have low donors because they see that something's wrong if you're not getting $5, $100, $200 donations. So you need both high and low. And also, we discussed earlier, if you get a dollar donation from a person in your district, they're going to vote for you. Since Liliana has asked us to move on, we're going to move. Okay.
I'll add one more thing. I mean, how many of you have donated to a campaign and got like a generic thank you that you know the candidate didn't even see? Right? Do you like it? Especially when you know them, right? So I would say when people give you money, it's serious and it's out of their own pocket. When you're sending them thank you letters, sign them yourself. Try to put a note if you know them, if you can. I mean, some people maybe donate on the internet, you don't know who they are. But to the extent, like, I know Cece, I should say, hi, Cece, thank you so much. I hope I see you and Regina, during the holidays. That goes a long way because people do get pissed off. They also get pissed off if you don't send them a thank you letter, which, sometimes is hard because it comes through, all these different ways. But to the extent you're sending things, even a holiday card, try not to make it like a generic stamp. I know it takes a lot longer. That's why it takes me so long to send out my holiday cards. But in the long run, it makes a difference, that personal touch. Take a little time.
The mechanics of an ask. But first, how many people have asked for money? Okay. How many of you think you haven't asked for money? How many of you think that you've never asked for money? Okay. And that's it. That's it right there, all right? We grow up, even though we're taught it's not polite, we ask our parents for money. And let's go through how the ask goes. Hey, Dad, my friends are going to Starbucks on Saturday, and I'd like to get a cup of hot chocolate. It's going to cost $2. So, can you give me $2 on Friday night so that I can have it on Saturday? And you look with those big brown eyes, right? That is exactly how it goes, the parts of an ask for anything, a charity, political campaign, anything else. The mechanics of an ask. You develop a relationship. You ask for a specific amount by a specific time. You give them a reason, but you ask for a specific amount by a specific time, and then you stop. Just stop. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and people don't like a pause. The inclination is to step up and fill in. And they might say, I'll give you whatever the asked for amount, $2. Or they might say, $2 is too much for me, I'll give you $1. That's how I was coached. It's very difficult to stick to it because I really enjoyed talking with people, and I felt that I was learning from everybody. So my fundraisers always, were going like this, saying that I was going on too long with the
cold call?
Yes. Okay. On cold calling, it's really hard because you're calling a complete stranger. And I told people that cold calling was like having a first date every 10 minutes.
So I don't cold call. nor do I like cold calling. I know fundraisers are always going to say, hey, here's a list, call. But I feel like if I don't know the person, why should they give me money, right? So for me, it's more about calling people that I've met before. And I like the soft ask. I like to invite them to something, like my birthday party. And I may call and say, hey, David, can you come to my birthday party? You know, it's this date. And you may say, well, no, I can't. And I say, okay, well, you know, maybe you can consider, you know, donating to my campaign and I'll invite you to another one. So it's a little bit softer because I like to invite people, right? For me, it's all about people and it's making that connection. So there's different ways to fundraise. If you only call people when you're raising money, yet when they call you, like, hey, David, can you come to my kid's birthday party? Or can you come to a ribbon cutting? Or, you know, can you show up and speak to my class? And you never call them back. They never see you, right? Then people aren't going to give. It's a relationship. It's like asking your father. If you're a good guy or good daughter or son, your father's going to say, yes, I will give you $5 to go to Starbucks. But if you're not very good and you only talk to him when you need money, he's going to be like, go do some more chores, right? So it's kind of the same concept, like you said, you know, it's being able to ask and knowing how to ask. And everyone develops their own style. Some people just like to write letters and hope people send it back, but that is a very, very low margin because you have to follow it up with a call to say, David, did you get my letter? I'm following up on my letter. You know, really hard race I'm in. You know, I've been working really hard. But in the letter, you should have all the things that you are doing for the community so that when I call you, you'd be like, I didn't even know you were doing all these things. That's amazing. Yes, I will give you a donation, you know, to support you in your next efforts. But if they never hear from you, they've never gotten an email, never gotten a letter, they don't see you in the community, fundraising is going to be really, really tough. You're not going to get phone calls and you're going to get maybe a lot of hang-ups.
Fiona's really good. Just from what she said right now, she's really good at fundraising. I know that some of you are concerned about the ethics of fundraising and you know what you hear nationally. But you know what Fiona said? You should be showing up at birthday parties whether they're donors or not. You should be showing up at juvenile diabetes meetings in people's living rooms. You do that for people who donate or who don't donate. You keep your doors open for people, you know, to come in and talk with you, whether they're donors or not. So all of those things are fine. It's when they ask for a specific vote that you say, I'm sorry, I need to take that under advisement. Now, they can come in and say, we really feel strongly about this, but they can't ask you for a pledge on how you vote. That's way, way, way across the line. When Obamacare was coming up, also known as the Affordable Care Act, I had someone very conservative, but he was really terrific because he had maxed out every single cycle, and he came specifically to my town hall, and he said, and it wouldn't matter if he had said in a private meeting or in a public setting like he did, if you vote for Obamacare, I will never give you another penny. That had no effect on my vote. And in fact, given my personality, I might have said to him, and I didn't, that seals it, I'm voting for it. I didn't say that. But, you know, that is somewhat consistent with my...
Yeah. And there are very strict laws around fundraising, so if you're thinking seriously, make sure you hire an attorney who can give you the best advice, because that's called quid pro quo. Like, I'll give you $1,000 if you vote no tomorrow. You cannot do that, right? When you're raising money, it has to be willing donors. You can't say, hey, to my employees, you know, I got 20 employees, I want all of you to write a check to David tomorrow, and I will reimburse you. Cannot do that. Or, don't worry, I'll make sure, you know, it doesn't come out of your paycheck. Cannot do that. Okay, it has to be willing donors who want to support David willingly, who cut the check willingly, sign it willingly.
Build personal lists, as Fiona said. Keep track of everybody you ever come in contact with. Start today with the people you meet in this room, and keep track of your college roommates, people you went to school with, professional school. all of those lists. Keep track of them, go back and reconstruct them.
Someone wanted us to talk about.
I had several mentors. A couple of my law school classmates ran for Congress and won. They were good advisors, and and somebody lent me their chief of staff, very politically knowledgeable. She was a volunteer mentor, very, very helpful. So mentors are helpful, especially if you're a first-time candidate.
And if you're able to intern in an office or work even for an elected official part-time, that becomes hopefully a good mentor for you. You can see their style. Every elected official has a different style. So sometimes it's good to work on different type of campaigns or intern in different offices. And then some people are more proactive than others. Like I will say, if you want to shadow me and be my driver, you can spend all day with me and we're going to go drive like to Del Norte County. So that's a way for us to like spend time together. If you are want to run for office, please call me. I'm more than happy to give you the advice. But in terms of like corporations have a more defined mentor-mentee relationship in many of these companies, right? We don't have that in politics as much. So you really have to kind of seek your mentors out. And then you have to kind of follow up with them to make sure, because we're like running a mile a minute. And we don't always think, oh, I should have called David because I'm going to Torah Hospital and he is in the medical field, right? So also keep in touch with us and say, hey, anything happening this week that I can go to or tag along with? We always need seat fillers for events. Sometimes I buy a table and I don't have enough people to fill it. And so I will think about, inviting you guys, and so just keep in touch with us. But it is a less formal type of relationships between mentors and mentees in the political field, unless you're actually working with them.
I think that any good elected official enjoys mentoring and wants to help bring up the next generation.
Thanks, David. I had
Sure, Jerry.
two quick questions. One is back to the mechanics of the ask, right? In terms of, everyone knows Fiona and David and Barry. And so do you have any sort of tips for first-time candidates without the name recognition? So that's one question. The other question is the amount. You talked about starting with a low amount, ask people to give $1. I've also heard it said that it's the same amount of work to ask for $5 as it is for $500. So I'm just wondering what your philosophies are. Is it to start low and come back later, or if you're going to just ask for a higher amount? So a name recognition in terms of first-time candidates, and then the amount of the ask. You could comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, so my style is not to just cold call. So it's more, hey, will you do a house party for me? Free, no ask. Just invite, 10 of your friends. Maybe they're your church buddies or you play poker with them, or just to let me come and meet them. And then at that point, I will try to get their contact information, and then I will follow up later on with an ask, but not, cold calling. You're right. If I can get $500 versus $1, it's the same amount. But, I think if you tier, like all of my events are tiered, like low to high, and you give the option always for high because people don't want to necessarily give more than what is asked for. So if you only do an event for $250, you're just going to give $250, yet, Sandy could maybe give me $5,000. So I always put like the high amounts also. You have to give options. And then people generally will give according to what they feel comfortable giving at that time.
I just want to mention that you don't want to ask so high that you're laughed off the phone. And when you're running as a first-time candidate, you have absolutely no credibility. And if you can generate a little bit of press, or in some other respect, have a certification, if you will. And house party is kind of certification because someone in the neighborhood believes in you enough to invite you into their home. But for example, having press articles, I showed up at construction sites and, other such things. And, I really believe in building infrastructure. And the community newspaper that has a circulation of 1,000 likes to cover it. So then we have, this is literally how we did it. We had like this rack of first 5 articles, then 50 articles, and I would call someone, cold call, from a list, and I'd say, didn't ask the first time, and I'd say, well, I'm running. Let me send you some articles, and send them the articles, and then follow up and say, have you received the article? And sometimes we send them like, it would be 3 tranches of articles before you make the ask, and they may say no, but at least they know you cared.
And I just want to say thank you so much, Fiona. Despite being 16 a time out to speak with us, it's your investment in time that says it all. That's the first thing that impressed me the most, was that when our students visit you at the state capitol, you did not hesitate for a second. You hopped in, you spoke from the heart, you said it like it was needed to be said to high school students, and they know, they'll check you if it's not real. So we really always appreciate that. So on behalf of Vision America, this is just a little small token of our appreciation, say thank you. So if Sandy can give this to Fiona.
Okay,
Our chairman,
of Vision America. Thank you very much, Fiona. I really appreciate for your continued support of the community, and also be example, be mentor to all of us. And I think in return, we just have to be continue to support you to do the good work that you've done. Thank you very much.
And then for David.
David, I'll do that. David, put it this way, I say, I hope I will not say we're partner with a C letter, and that we're just partner for something that would be good. I think it's just for David, it's us. He's been attacked from all over by the Oregon press, by everybody. He's understood, but somehow he have the courage to stand up and continue to contribute to the community. And that also takes extreme dedication, a lot of heart, and a lot of dedication. And then in spite of difficulties, he persevered. And this is something that I respect very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.